All right, welcome to another episode of the Credder Podcast. I'm your host, Chase Palmieri, and with me today is Edvaldo Silva, Latin America Director for Zefr, coming to us today from Sao Paulo, Brazil, where a lot is happening. So, Edvaldo, thanks for making the time today.
Hi, Chase. Good morning. It's a very nice to talk with you, and it will be a pleasure to talk with your audience.
Yeah. So obviously we're going to jump into all things Zephyr, brand safety, the current state of advertising and defunding misinformation, goals and missions that both Zephyr and Credder care a lot about, and we follow this space very closely. But it would be, I'd be a little remiss not to acknowledge the fact that as of yesterday, Brazil swore in a new president, but not so new because it's a president that you've had before. So Brazil swears in Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, and I mean, there's been a lot of coverage of Bolsonaro protesters on the streets, a lot of seemingly upset kind of folks taking to the streets to protest the election result, and a lot of kind of similar discussions about election fraud, stolen election, and a little bit of foreshadowing perhaps that Brazil might have its own January 6th Capitol riot. So you're in Sao Paulo, the biggest city in Brazil. A lot of people, definitely a left-leaning, probably a predominantly Lula supporting city. But what are you seeing on the ground there?
Yes, in fact, we have now a new president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, Lula, and that's not new because he got um, two entire periods as a president, and he came back. I believe that's that's good. Well, we would be better if you have like someone really new. But since the experience with Bolsonaro wasn't that good because he was much more focused on stuff that don't help us too much in the pandemic. For example, he was like trying to avoiding the vaccination and the governors in Brazil fighting to get our vaccine. And you got, thanks God, thanks for the governors for the states. Brazil is divided by states, and he suddenly accept that and start to invest in Pfizer and other vaccines. So I believe this is the main reason he lost a new chance to continue as the president. He way to deal with the pandemic. This was a mess to him. In terms of economic, he did not bad. Brazil continued to grow in terms of economics. I believe it's much more his behavior. Sometimes putting Brazil against our friends like France, like Europe, like US. So Bolsonaro got a very hard and military background, and he treated our European partners and sometimes our Latin American partners, or sometimes US, not that good. So it was kind of not good to us here in Brazil, see our brand, our country being seen like that. We are a very vibrant, happy, and work harder people. So we don't want to be see like that. People like getting fired in the Amazon or something that he did, man. No, he did wrong.
Yeah, certainly a lot of Brazilians are going to be relieved to have Lula as
Yeah.
the face of Brazil on the international stage. So
Yes.
so besides kind of just the branding and representation side of it, what do you expect might change in Brazil now that Lula's president? Any, specific things that you think will any policy changes?
Yes. No, sure. Lula is from the left side of the political landscape. Bolsonaro is more on the right. And I believe Lula, you have more environmental, like you will take care a little bit more on Amazon, on how to promote this correctly the word, and he will do more inclusive, like for LGBTQ plus strategies, more anti-racism politics. So in this part, I believe will be good. It's put us in the coming back because we got this. We both Bolsonaro stop it, and we are coming back on track. So, but in terms of economics, I hope that he don't do too much different, like to come back for a more far left economic stuff that we are seeing here in Latin America, in countries like Venezuela or Argentina or some other countries. The far left way to manage the economy is a mess. So I hope he can get the left principles, the left politics for environment, for people, for human rights, but keep all the economics fundamentals that we still have. We got these the fundamentals of our economic, like inflation combat. No, don't spend much more that we are uh, receiving from the taxation. We had this since 94. All the governments respect that. So this was helped Brazil to continue to grow, to keep growing, despite the other countries in Latin was like growing, falling. So I hope and I believe he'll do that because he's a smart guy. He'll keep the fundamentals of the economy. So will be a mix on I hope on the liberal on economy, but left on the human rights and this stuff. That's important. That could be a good government. Our hope is that he don't mess with the economy. If he don't do mess with the economy, you can do everything you want.
Yeah. Well, one of
Yeah.
the concerns of Bolsonaro supporters was exactly that Lula on the economy might be worse. And one of the specific concerns was the conversion rate between the dollar and the real, or the real, as we would say,
Yes. Yeah.
which actually right now is seeing a bit of a high in recent months at 5.4 reais per dollar. So do you expect that to just be just a reaction to the new president, or do you think that that might start run away into 5.5, 5.6, even get to 6 or worse? Do you have any thoughts on how the dollar conversion rate might be affected?
Yes, I believe this will depend 100% on how our Ministry of Economic will work this year. Depends on the politics and how we will do the you deal with the principles of our economy, how you manage that. He'll be much more liberal or more well, for example, if they don't want to sell any other big public companies that needs to be modernized, or if he don't do anything like stupid in this front, keep the good word. I believe the dollar will be decrease and stay well. It's all depend on I believe the new government. Right now, it's just about the, the worrying with the new president and worrying because he's a guy from the left. Our last president before Bolsonaro, Dilma wasn't that good. It was a mess, and it was from the same party from Lula.
Yeah.
She got impeachment, and she did a mess on the economy. So if Lula do the Lula government on economy, we are good. If Lula do the Dilma government on economy, we are in a mess, man. So the dollar will be like, whoa. But if you do good right, it's come back to be 4, 5, up to 5, never 6. But it depends on how we do. I believe they have good people there that can tell, hey man, don't do that. I believe they have, I hope they have good people to tell them and that you can do everything in any different areas, but on economy, don't mess with
Yeah.
economy, please.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And so you know, we've talked about it a little bit before the show started, and obviously the media has reiterated the point that Bolsonaro was kind of the Trump of Brazil,
Yeah.
and that kind of leads to a lot of the same rhetoric that came from Bolsonaro and his supporters, which is this idea that the election results were not valid, that the presidential election was stolen, and that Bolsonaro might not actually accept his defeat. I believe what the latest on that is that Bolsonaro is actually now in the United States, and I'm hearing some things from you know, my wife who's Brazilian and all of her channels that she's following, that there might be criminal indictments against Bolsonaro. Is this something that you're hearing on the ground as well? Do you think Bolsonaro might be convicted of a crime?
Yes, yes, I believe he can. In fact, Bolsonaro was elected after a huge Brazilian movement against corruption. So this is the main reason Bolsonaro was elected. We did like millions. We had millions of people in Brazil that was supporting a kind of organization called Lava Jato Car Wash, led by a very good judge in the South, Moro. So this helped, and Lula was involved in a lot of corruption stuff in his party. And this is what the main reason Bolsonaro was elected, to help us fight against the corruption on politics and get us more liberal in economics. What he did, since he had some issues with his kids, his son and himself during the entire period as a deputy in Rio de Janeiro, very suspicious. He was elected on the Lava Jato wave, Brazil fighting against corruption. What he did when he started, he forget it. He just start to kill and finish all uh, the team that worked in the legal side, the judges. He tried to cut all Lava Jato strategies, and he stopped to fight against corruption. Why? Because he wants to save he and his kids. I believe that's the main reason. And that was like a deception to us all in Brazil. And this is other reason he lost. And I believe he can have troubles, legal ones, because this new government, I believe, will not give him like freedom for free. I believe they will see what happened there. So this is a point. Another point, talking about um, his supporters. I believe he tried since the beginning follow the Trump steps. Now he's in Miami, Orlando, in a Trump um, house. Anyway, he went to USA, and he started to talk about the integrity of Brazilian elections like 1 year ago, because he was preparing to use this as a speech if he lost. So it started to put our election tools, and everybody knows that it's very safe. We have a lot of international organizations that validating on our election period, etc. So the election in Brazil is safe. It's nobody beyond his support, his fans in Brazil believe in that. Nobody. So I believe it's much more a strategy that he copied from Trump to have some speech on after he lost, if he lost, and he lost, so he's using that.
Okay. And perhaps the real president of Brazil was lost in the last, I believe, a
Yeah,
week ago,
yeah,
Pelé.
man. Yeah.
So that must have been rough for the Brazilian people. I mean, in America, many people think that Pelé helped put Brazil on the map. Probably a lot of Brazilians would say the same thing. So what's it like to be on the ground while this obviously, there's some excitement over the new presidency, but at the same time, you've lost Pelé.
Yes, that's a good point. I just need to correct something here. Pelé, bigger than a president. It's a
Yeah,
king.
king. I
It's our
almost said
king,
king. Yeah,
Pelé.
I almost
Yeah,
said king.
that's right.
Yeah.
It's our king. Our king is dead. Oh Jesus! It's rather shocking. I want to share a personal story. I was in Santiago. I spent my Christmas to New Eve in Santiago, beautiful city. Went to Andes, many places there, and was in the Uber, Uber, and I was listening to the radio. It was a very young radio with young music, people talking slangs, etc. Hey, they thought, hey man, we just know that Pelé just died. Oh, this is sad, this is sad. Oh no, we need to talk about that. They talk about Pelé like a lot, and they put a song that Pelé created and sang. I was start to cry, man, because it was like it's our history. I was in Santiago in a Uber, listening to the radio, and suddenly people start to talk about this. I feel that it's a global deal, isn't it? It's I believe it was the first global athlete sportsman to be like a global hero. After that, we had like Michael Jordan, a lot of American ones and other ones everywhere. But he got, especially when he got the third World Cup in Mexico in 17, it was like he was kind of a global brand, a global name. And you're right, he put Brazil name on the map, on the planet. He was kind of one of our he was one of our I don't know how, like Edith Piaf in France. I don't know, like Michael Jordan in US, or John Coltrane or Elvis Presley in US for rock and roll. Pelé, it was for soccer, and he was beyond soccer. He was known by, I don't know, Muhammad Ali, by Elvis Presley, by John Lennon. He stayed with all this guy, and he started everything with huge numbers, like more than 1,000 goals, 3 World Cups. Nobody get it. The youngest guy to get the one. A lot of he's the god for soccer, but he's beyond soccer because he now is part of our souls. You know, like Carmen Miranda, like Tom Jobim, like all this stuff that make us Brazilian. Pelé is different. I believe so.
Yeah.
I can tell you, it's easy to do more than 1,000 goals. Someone at some point can do it, but it's very hard to do one goal like Pelé did. This is
Yeah.
the best definition what he
Yeah.
was.
Maybe more than just putting Brazil on the map. And some would argue that he helped turn soccer, or football, as I should say, futebol, into an
Exactly.
art form, into what it has become today on the international stage.
Exactly.
And for anyone who doesn't follow soccer or football closely, just look around for the number 10, and you'll tend to see, the best athlete on each team wearing number 10 as kind of a salute to all that Pelé was. And
Exactly.
and as a fan of soccer, I will spare you having to discuss Brazil's disappointing World Cup. We will.
Oh,
It was that was a
this,
disappointing one. So I think now we should turn to the work that you're doing at Zefr. So just again for listeners, Edvaldo here is the Latin America director. So specifically in charge of all of the brand safety and brand suitability work that Zephyr is doing in Latin America specifically. So let's back it up for listeners a little bit. Why don't you just start with the basics? What is the difference between brand safety and brand suitability?
yes. First, I would like to explain a little bit to the listeners, to the audience that nowadays, I don't know if everybody knows, but nowadays we had in the digital marketing landscape area called verification. So we Zefr work in the verification landscape with other big players. Zefr is a California-based company. It's not born in California more than 10 years ago. And in this verification landscape, we decide to work with the walled gardens. What this means? Walled gardens are those companies that has their own tools, own platform to interact and to do advertising, like
So go ahead
Facebook,
and Facebook, TikTok,
TikTok, and YouTube, for example. So was a very smart decision because we had like other big competitors on verification doing open web, and we specialize it on these big guys. And these big guys are the guys who are getting the money. They are getting like 7% of entire digital market budget. So it was a very smart move and on the right direction. So we are on that in the verification. In the verification, what a verification company does. We verify the quality of media, that big brands or the quality of content that big brands are exposing its advertising, and looking for viewability, for fraud, and for brand safety and brand suitability. And nowadays, fraud, it's kind of commodity mandatory. Viewability is kind of commodity mandatory, but brand safety is continuing evaluation all the time. So talking about brand safety and brand suitability. On brand safety and brand suitability, we have a global association called GARM, Global Alliance for Responsible Media. What is GARM? GARM is the association with big agencies, big clients, and associations like Interactive Advertising Bureau that decide to put together some rules on what is brand safe. So they define it, now it's 12, at the beginning it was 11. They define it in another one, categories, and the categories are like terrorism, alcohol, adult content, and different ones. The new one is fake news. So 12 different categories with 3 different levels of risk. This is how we manage brand safety and brand suitability. The brand safety is, for example, if a company wants to run in YouTube or in TikTok, etc., they will, if they run without any verification, any data, because this company don't provide data, don't provide dashboard or analysis on brand suitability. He used like the standard brand safety, the brand safety that this platform has. It's standard, and you can see nothing. What is brand suitability? It is the possibility of a brand, an agency, advertising agent, or a brand, to define in these 12 categories: terrorism, adult content, injury, death, more, etc. These hard contents that the brand wants to avoid. 3 different levels: the low risk, medium risk, and high risk. Why this? Because the perception on what is risky or not depends on the brand. For a kids brand, needs to be all low or zero risk. But for example, for a company that have a beer or liquor, etc., could be like a medium risk on alcohol. So this is brand suitability, is the capability to define your own brand safe rules. So that's it.
Okay. And so Zefr essentially sells this service, this integration to advertisers and ad agencies as a way of helping them navigate these walled gardens navigate the content on TikTok. So essentially to ensure that their ad placements are appearing next to suitable brand safe content so that those brands don't receive some kind of a backlash or reputational hit for having an ad show up to some next to something that would reflect negatively on the brand and affect their brand value amongst consumers. So really what Zefr's product and services is, it's kind of two things, right? You're on one hand, you're helping them avoid risk, but on the other hand, I'm assuming that the brand safety and brand suitability aspect leads to even better ad performance. Is that, one of the promises of Zephyr's technology as well?
Exactly, because you are in a safe environment and mostly in the right environment. Because beyond the brand safety, brand suitability, what we do, we do our analysis. Zephyr has machine learning engine, artificial intelligence, who look for every page in a video level. So this is our advantage too. And with total integration with these big walled gardens, we are there. If some brand wants to test Zephyr on Facebook or on TikTok or in Google, or you just go for your business manager on Facebook or TikTok business manager or DV360, etc., and you can get it. We are very fully integrated, and we do the verification on a video level. We see the pictures, the audios, etc., to guarantee the right placement to beyond guarantee the safety. Because if you have verification company that do only semantics, it means only the words looking for URL, the words, the title, subtitle. That's good. It's a good step to have. But if you don't see, don't have a verification verifying the video, you can, for example, have a page with a lot of cookie words like cookie, cake, etc. And the video, the content itself could be kids content, not cuisine or culinary stuff that a brand for food wants to be, or a brand for liquor or something like that. Don't want to be in the kids content. So sometimes not about the danger of the content, but not the right placement. So this helps the safe environment, and the right place helps the performance. That's right.
Yeah. And so you mentioned that this new 12th category of GARM is fake news, and obviously one of Zephyr's missions, and it's stated pretty clearly right on the homepage of Zephyr's website, is that Zephyr helps brands defund disinformation. So I'm curious, you're talking about this machine learning program that can scan content and pull out quality signals and that kind of stuff, and that it goes into video as well. Is there a different approach for news content, like traditional news outlets, comparing CNN against ABC News, for example? Can you talk a little bit about how you all determine quality signals amongst news that isn't just fake news or fraudulent news or click farms, but actual, real news outlets? Do you have a way of differentiating the quality of content amongst those main players?
Yes, for sure. The good news is that Zephyr is prepared for these. What we did to have fake news and misinformation as one of categories that you can avoid, that you can map. We bought a company in Israel, Israeli one, called advertisers, 100% focused on with a machine learning, 100% focused on avoid and combat fake news. So we integrated this advertisers company as one of our categories because it is hard to industry to do that. What we did, we bought the only company in the market based in Israel that do this. And you're right, it's not only the click farms or fake news farms. We map the big ones, depends on content. It's a very sophisticated technology. I can't explain you for like how they do that, But what I can tell you is that we bought this company. This company is very focused on fake news, and we didn't like do a partnership with other company to do that, because this could be not like 100% integrated or safe or fast as the client's needs things. We have billions and billions of impressions. It needs to be like real time and programmatic. Needs to be like this.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and so Zefr recently put out a research study. We're not going to dive too much into it because it was polling US consumers, but there was one interesting statistic that I think helps us dive into the next kind of nuance on this topic, which is it says that US consumers, 86% of US consumers polled in this brand safety research report said that brands should, quote, make every effort to avoid being next to misinformation. And obviously, as we mentioned, Zefr's goal is to defund misinformation. So I'm curious, from your perspective, kind of your seat at the table in this landscape, who do you think is responsible at the end of the day for making sure that the ads don't show up next to or supporting the funding of this misinformation? For example, the three kind of key players are the brands themselves, the Nikes, the Adidas of the world, the ad agencies that those brands often work with to run their ad placements, and the platforms who are trying to create a brand safe environment for advertisers to kind of flock to as a as a as a competitive differentiator, advertise on our platform because, we're going to protect your brand better. It seems like all three have they could be argued that all three should have some level of responsibility, but at the end of the day, perhaps it all falls on the brand, perhaps it all falls on the platform because they're the ones who have the competitive incentive to do so. I'm curious how you see the kind of responsibility spread out amongst the brands, the ad agencies, and the platforms.
I believe the responsibility is on the three guys, on the brand itself, to don't help like terrorism or drugs or this hard stuff, or fake news especially. And fake news can can make a mess in an election or in people's life, etc. So I believe it's responsible for the brand. It's responsible for the agents to help the brands to be safe and to have the right tools to keep the brand safe. And it's responsible for this platform itself. But as you know, a seller cannot be auto verification, auto like be their own sheriff and see auditing, the auditing. We need third party. So this is where the verification companies came,
right,
to help the three guys to see the data, to see the number, to avoid bad content, etc. So all Google, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all these guys, they are working hard to keep their environment safe. They are doing a good job, but it's an endless job. It's a fighting that you need to continue to do. And the agents and the brand cannot rely only in this guy's data. We need to have some well-trusted a company accredited by global associations like GARM, like that can tell, hey, this guy's a serial, you can use them as or your auditing. Because at the end of the day, what we do beyond avoid and protect in real time is do some auditing to help the brands to be safe. So responsible is for the three, and we are in the industry to help them to keep responsible. I'm like
Right.
super nice.
Yeah, it's definitely the opportunity that
Yeah.
Zephyr is, jumping on, and that Credder itself, it's our revenue model as well to help with this brand safety, as a data provider for these third party kind of audits or vetting of sources. But I imagine, because I've experienced it myself, selling our database license, that this distribution of responsibility can be tricky when you're trying to identify who to target as a customer, because you might call the platform, you might call, Facebook and say, hey, I've got this great service that you can integrate into your ad buying flow on the platform. And they might say, oh, that's nice, but we won't integrate it until the brands start asking for it. And then you go to the brands and you try to sell it to them and they say, oh, that's nice, but I don't think we should have to pay for that. I think the platforms should be investing in that. And so there's a little bit of this, like, this aspect of distribution of responsibility can sometimes make it hard to narrow down on a customer and help them understand, no, this is your responsibility. You have to make this investment yourself. Do you have trouble in this regard, or is there a certain one of these three categories, whether it's the brand, the agency, or the platform, that you find more success in going direct to?
No, that's a very good question, Chase. You are a very good seller. You are a very great of thinking. That's right. That's the right and perfect scenario. In fact, for the platform itself, for the walled gardens like TikTok and Google and Facebook, we are partners because we help them to keep safe, to show, hey, we have Zephyr as a option for brand safety with a lot of fancy and very good stuff, etc. So for them, for the walled gardens, for the publishers, we are partners. That's it. Some publishers, I have some meetings with like big publishers, global ones that are based in Mexico and Argentina, that wants to have our technology to add in their platform. So we are studying this. It's business that we can do it, but we see the publisher as a partner, a real partner. Our client, our main focus is the client and the agents. So I have meetings and talks and conversations and live meetings with the big agents in the region, Brazil, Colombia, Chile, Mexico, and with the big brands. And we need to talk with the agencies and the brands. The brand, do they start? Because the agents, most of them already some like the media buying, the budget, the technology they already have. So I will be another level with optimization, with brand save, etc. But some agents more smart can, oh, that's a good stuff. I can show this to my client and he will like it. So some agents use like that. Some agents like, hey man, when this be a client priority, you turn on. So
Right.
there are two different kinds of agents. The ones that really wants to show some value and some good stuff to the client. Some other ones that when be a priority, you do it. So, but the agent is my best friend forever. Even this one that asked me to get priority on the client, it's my best friend forever because I depend on them. We depend on them to activate everything, to do a good management. So we need to have a good relationship with the agents because they are our partners too. Our partners on activation, optimization, show the numbers to the clients, etc. The client itself is the client, is the brand. So most of my success in Latin America is talking with the main offices of these big brands or starting like in Mexico and bring them to Brazil and Colombia and Chile and etc. And starting with the client. The client love it. The client want to test. The client want to have protection on TikTok, on Facebook, on YouTube. And by the way, we are exclusive. We have exclusivity on TikTok in Latin America. We still have. This helps a lot to us here. But we have other new with different products on YouTube and Facebook per our specialization on walled garden. So this specialization on walled gardens help us to convince the brands to go for it and start to talk with the agents, and that's it. If a client wants, the agents, okay, they have budget, let's do it, and they start to love us, like us, and you go for it. Publishers are partners, agents are kind of clients and partners, clients that they can buy itself to the client, to the brand, and they are partners because we need them to keep everything very well. We and the brand, the client itself, the buyer is the brand at the end of the day.
Right. Right. So, okay, let me just double click on that once more. You said the ad agencies are your partners, kind of your clients as well. So this is something that we've also experienced. So I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on when you approach the ad agencies. Are you trying to sell them Zefr's product and say, okay, once you buy it and you pay your, your annual license or however your pricing model works, you're able to make it available to your clients? Or is it more of a, hey, ad agency, here's how we can add brand safety to your media buying, and you can turn around and offer this as a additional add-on to the brands that are running in these walled gardens, and if they have the budget, you can upsell them, and we'll have a reseller relationship where when the ad agency sells Zefr's product to the brand as part of their ad campaign, the ad agency gets to make some money on that as well. Is that really how it works as a reseller? Oh,
No, sorry.
no.
No, they are partners in the day by day in manage our platform and have our platform well operated, but never as a resellers because we work like an ed tech. So we don't do like discount per volume bonification, nothing like that. Our price is our price, and our price is transparent for the agents. So the clients, so they are never being resellers, and that's better to us. I believe that's keep us safe and keep us on the right side of the force. Keeping our pricing, everybody knows how much we will pay, and the agents, I believe, they do that, don't do that. I never see that they put another prices against our price. And there are, for example, some countries like Mexico that have a new law that they need total transparency, and we are okay with that because the price is what we have, and the client will see what they will pay to the agents. They get other fees from the client. They have other negotiations. We are like a service. We are SaaS, service as a service. So we're not media that had some this discount, bonification, and makes sense for their business. Our business is SaaS, is ad tech, martech provider. So it's much more technology than media, selling media.
Okay, got it. And is Twitter one of the walled gardens that Zefr works with?
Not yet. It's our landscape to add this week.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm curious, do you have any thoughts on the new ownership of Twitter with Elon Musk taking over? And there's a lot of talk. I'll give you my take first.
Yes.
I think oftentimes when we're looking at a looming recession or an economic downturn, oftentimes the advertising budgets are some of the first things to get cut. Brands stop advertising, agencies stop advertising, and platforms like Facebook take a big hit because they rely so much on advertising revenue. I'm I'm curious if you think that this has already happened, if we're already seeing a slowdown in ad spend as a result of this kind of cutting costs in what may or may not be a 2023 recession. And on that note, I personally sometimes feel like advertisers come up with a excuse for why they're cutting their advertising, because it doesn't look good to just say, oh, we're cutting advertising because we're scared or because, we have to save money. They oftentimes, I think, use a story in mainstream media to justify why they are cutting their budget. So, for example, Facebook, in the last recession or the economic downturn, there was the boycotting of advertising on Facebook, which just happened to align with an economic downturn when ad spend was drying up. But it was convenient, I believe, for advertisers to say, oh, it's because of political misinformation on Facebook that we're cutting our ad budgets because, we want to see them get that sorted out. But in reality, they had their own internal business reasons to cut back on ad spend. And so they kind of painted the story as Facebook's problem, not their own. I think something similar might be happening with Twitter today, where a lot of brands and advertisers are saying, oh, we're worried about the brand safety on Twitter with all this new, free speech loosening laws on Twitter. But in reality, it's just, again, that advertisers are looking at a looming recession, an economic downturn, and they're cutting their ad spend, and they need to make it look like it's not, them being concerned about their own finances. First, what do you think about Twitter and kind of the brand safety there, or maybe the forward-looking brand safety as some of these new changes are put in place? And then, am I right to some degree that advertisers can sometimes be a little disingenuous when they blame the platforms and cut ad spend, and it's a little bit of misdirection?
Yeah, I believe there's some stuff there. First, talk about the Twitter. I believe he now in some new hands, new owner. This guy from Tesla has a lot of stuff to do. I believe at some point he will appoint some CEO to take care of this platform. It's a very important platform to advertising, to communication. But it will depend on how the new team, the new CEO will manage that, because otherwise we will see another MySpace. Maybe you don't remember MySpace, but MySpace was like a big social network that's shrink, and now it's only for musicians. So it was big and like that. Orkut for Google search. So our ad tech environment is hard, man. All the time it's changing. If these guys don't find their way, they path fast and keep updating, like avoiding fake news, like be aligned with the brand's words, they will lose the battle. Sad to say. I pray that they keep their good brand despite the owner. The owner is the owner. He can be crazy. He can like be a lunatic, But the team that are managed, the CEO, these guys needs to be serious and need to be aligned with the industry. At the end of the day, you need to be aligned with what the industry is doing, what with the trends. Otherwise, you'll be another MySpace or Orkut or those big brands from the past that like zero revenue. So I believe could be a good deal. I can say about the personality of this guy. It could be a good deal if they do a good job. Getting more stuff, good stuff to the brands, but not only to the brands, to their audience. We need to be good with your audience to keep relevant, for your audience. I believe this will be the Twitter battle mostly. I'm sorry, I forgot the last question.
Yeah, so my last question is, maybe it's a little bit more nuanced, but it's this idea that when advertisers do cut back on spending,
Okay.
which always happens, when there's a looming economic uncertainty, they often, I believe, I've seen a pattern that they tend to blame a certain platform that is, being dragged around in the news, and they say, oh, we're cutting our ad spend there until they get that sorted out. But in reality, they were cutting their ad spend already, and it's just a convenient excuse.
Yes, I believe, again, I believe all depends on the audience, on the public. How many people you reach in your campaigns. So depends on the relevance of the platform. The brands can do that. Can just let me cut here from TikTok, for example, because they are like Chinese, but they are in US. They have American brands, American companies like us doing verification, seeing that if they are good, and they have a huge amount of users, especially in Latin America, in Europe, and they're increasing a lot of. The Generation X are there, so the brands cannot be out of this, or even Facebook. They did this massive um, big brands live in Facebook, but they come back. They come back when Facebook fix it. And this move from the big brands to get out of Facebook because the fake news, I believe it was on Obama election or something like that,
Yeah.
helped the verification industry. This was the momentum when the verification company like us got the permission from Facebook, from YouTube, and other guys to let's open for auditing. And this movement from the big brands helped it to organize and have a third party auditing working on these walled gardens. These are their names. These names not for nothing. They are very closed. So no, if I don't see any safety on that, I will not put my money, despite the fact that they are massive. They have audience. So I believe we got a good midterm here with the verification companies helping the brands to keep safe in these walled gardens. Don't trust only in their words, but having a third party seeing the numbers, seeing the percentage of brand safety in each category, percentage of viability or fraud or etc. in their environments.
Okay. And in Latin America, how do these major platforms stack up in terms of audience sizes amongst specifically, Brazil and other Latin American countries? Is it, Facebook's the biggest, then TikTok, then Instagram, then Twitter? How does it kind of stack up from biggest to smallest top 4 or 5 platforms?
Yes, here in Latin America, we are very hard user of social network. I believe Facebook is the big one for social network, and for video social network, YouTube for sure. But TikTok is getting a massive increase here. And the trick is that TikTok's not putting themselves as a social network. They are telling themselves, and makes sense, for their platform as an entertainment platform. That's good. That's a good position. And they are very fast on create stuff and build new stuff. They are hiring tons of people here in the region. I believe it's the same everywhere in Europe or in US. Very smart guys, and they are very aggressive in terms of building new stuff, creating an environment, creating a TikTok culture. They learn very fast how to do that, and I believe this will be the another big one. They are like you have YouTube, you have Facebook, and you have TikTok coming, and you have Instagram, Snapchat, other guys the following that. Talk about Latin America. Brazil is the biggest market in the entire region. Just a note here. Latin America, we call Latin America the countries that are from Uruguay to Mexico. Latin American. But North America is Canada, USA, and Mexico. But you call Latin America because we are all Latinos and speak Spanish and Portuguese and etc. So we have South America from the Caribbean to Uruguay, and Latin America from Uruguay to Mexico, to get all the Spanish speaker and Portuguese countries together. So this is the region. And we have Brazil as the biggest with like half of entire digital ad spend in all Latin America, more than 55%. After that, we have Mexico with 40% of all digital ad spend. And we have Colombia and Argentina fighting for the third position. Argentina and Colombia always get there. And the other Chile and other ones. And these are the countries that are, in terms of usage of social network, is the same. Brazil is the biggest one with the biggest population, Mexico and the other ones.
Okay. And what's next for Zefr in Latin America? What are your next big priorities? Call it just 2023. Is there a new project in the works that maybe you can share with us?
Yes, our project here in the regions keep growing our number of logos that are working with us, big brands. We need to, this kind of product demands big brands, more branding that are worried about the reputation and etc. So keep growing our team. We have a good team now, but we need more people more. And we'll focus on the misinformation. I believe it's a very good stuff to we work with and keep our track and our good name here in the region.
Great. And there's two questions that I ask every guest that comes on the podcast. That's how we wrap the show. But before I get there, are there any places you'd like to send listeners to follow you? Perhaps a Twitter handle or a website? Obviously the Zefr website will be in the show notes, but any place in particular you'd like to send listeners?
Yeah, you can add me in the LinkedIn. You send accept the invitation, and you can follow me on the Twitter. It's my LinkedIn is Edvaldo Silva, and my or Edvaldo Acir, ACR. My Twitter is Edvaldo Acir, and I believe most on these are on these two platforms.
Okay, great. And so last two questions for you here. They're way off topic, but I like to ask every guest at the end of the podcast. Bitcoin. What are your thoughts on Bitcoin?
Yeah, I believe it's like the Nasdaq is like invest in stock with more risk that can bring more result. Or no, I'm seeing a lot of people losing money with this these bitcoins, and I see a lot of people very passionate in love with bitcoins, and I see people don't believe that this will decrease. So I believe the trick, the good and the bad on the bitcoins is the lack of regulation, is the lack of I don't know, the New York Stock Option Company, Nasdaq, or something like that, or Bovespa in Brazil, seeing what is going. The government is trying to government here in Brazil is trying to study and see how to do it, but it's a brand new stuff, still brand new. And nowadays, it's like you invest in I don't know, in the new stock company and put your money there and see if this will make money or not. If I have my suggestion on invest, if you have money enough and have some money to put there, you can do it and see how it goes, because you can become rich. Some guys in NFT using Bitcoins became rich selling images. It's a new culture.
Yeah.
I believe we need to have our open minds, but our feet on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah,
Don't
it seems like the Brazilian government is, like you said, really exploring it
Yes,
seriously
yes,
and has recently put into effect some new legislation that might not allow Bitcoin as legal tender, but at least legalize it as something that the citizens can hold and use.
yes.
So some interesting developments there. And I'm just curious, have you been following Nayib Bukele and what El Salvador has been doing with Bitcoin?
No, no, I heard some news, but I don't know.
Okay. Well, anyway, Nayib Bukele, the president of El Salvador, had made Bitcoin legal tender a couple of years ago, and they're seeing a lot of new investment, a lot of new tourism, a lot of uh, a
Nice.
lot of positive GDP growth and other results as a side effect of leaning into the technology. So there's a lot of talk that perhaps Nayib Bukele is what they call in Bitcoin orange pilling other leaders in Latin America. And so it'll be interesting to see when I'm watching closely to see what Lula says on this
Yeah.
topic because I don't know if he's spoken about it yet. All right, so last question for you today. Even more crazy for you is are we living in a simulation?
If you are living a simulation right now in the world,
Yeah, is
in the
this reality?
matrix,
Is the reality that we're
yeah,
experiencing, is it real
yes.
base reality? The stars and the planets, those are real, or are we all living in code like it's the Matrix?
No, I believe both stuff. I believe the reality, it's two ways. It's in our mind, in our thoughts, and how we deal with with these thoughts and how interact with the things. I believe it's a crazy that we live in this very, but very small world comparing with the entire universe, comparing with our solar system. We still think about countries, we still think about barriers, we still racist, we still do something, we still burning our forest, man. We like this, man. We like so we need to be more human, more accepting the other realities, the other people, the other perceptions. And Chase, I want to thank you to the opportunity to talk here from Latin America, from São Paulo, from Brazil, to you and your audience globally. I believe most in your say, but globally. And we are just one word in the same reality, virtual, online, digital, doing travels, went to Santiago, to Europe, doing road trips in California. This is the reality.
Yeah. Well, Evaldo, thank you so much for spending the time with me today. I learned a lot. I think listeners will have learned a lot too. Very interesting the work you're doing, and I hope to run into you in Sao Paulo or in Rio de Janeiro somewhere soon.
Sure.
All right.
Awesome.
Take
Let's
care.
do
Thank you
it.
so much.
Bye. Thank you.